Rosemary oil and rosemary water have exploded on social media as miracle hair growth solutions. But what does this actually mean according to science? Today we're going to do a deep dive into real clinical studies, compare topicals like minoxidil, share my personal experience, and reveal whether rosemary lives up to the hype or if it's mostly a myth. Let's dig in and see if rosemary earned its crown or just leaves a residue. Rosemary has been used in cooking and traditional medicine for centuries. Recently, platforms like TikTok and Instagram have picked up on the 2015 clinical study comparing rosemary oil versus 2% minoxidil, reporting equivalent hair count improvements after 6 months and less itching with rosemary. Their narrative spread natural, less irritating works like Rogaine. But what actually did the study show? And what about dosage, scalp conditions, and real world results? Let's break it down. The science behind it. What active ingredients are involved? That's the question. Rosemary contains carnosic acid, which has anti inflammatory and antioxidant properties. According to Cleveland Clinic, these effects may boost scalp circulation and create an environment that supports hair follicles. In a clinical trial conducted in 2015, researchers designed a single blinded study, randomized control study, to evaluate the effectiveness of rosemary oil compared to minoxidil. The study involved 100 men between the ages of 18 and 49 who were experiencing male pattern baldness, also known as androgenic alopecia. Participants were divided into two groups. One group applied rosemary oil to their scalp, while the other used 2% minoxidil, both following this regimen for a duration of 6 months. The results revealed that after 6 months, both groups experienced a similar increase in hair count with no significant statistical difference between them. However, it was noted that participants in the minoxidil group reported a higher frequency of scalp itching compared to those using rosemary oil. Interestingly, when researchers conducted an earlier evaluation at the 3 month mark, there were no significant changes that were observed in either group, highlighting just how slow the process of hair regrowth can actually be. Beyond human trials, rosemary has also been studied in animal models. A 2023 study conducted on rabbits tested a 2% blend of rosemary and myrtle extracts and found that it produced hair regrowth results comparable to 5% minoxidil. This suggests promising potential for natural alternatives in treating hair loss. Additionally, studies using mice have shown that rosemary extract can increase hair follicle size and enhance hair length, likely due to its ability to stimulate VEGF pathways, which are known to promote blood vessel formation and improve nutrient delivery to hair follicles. Now, let's talk about the benefits and limitations of rosemary for hair growth. One of the biggest benefits of rosemary oil is that it has been shown to perform similar to 2% minoxidil in increasing the hair count after 6 months of consistent use. Another major advantage is that rosemary tends to cause less scalp irritation. In fact, the group using the minoxidil reported significantly more itching than those using rosemary oil. Beyond that, rosemary also has additional scalp health benefits due to its anti inflammatory and antioxidant properties. It may help reduce dandruff and even slow down premature graying. In some cases, it's not similar for everyone. However, there are also clear limitations that you need to know. First is rosemary takes time to show results. In a clinical study, no visible effects were seen at the 3 month mark, only after 6. Second, the evidence supporting rosemary's effectiveness is still relatively weak as it comes from a small number of studies with limited sample sizes. Also, it has never been directly compared to 5% minoxidil, which is the more common and stronger formulation used amongst people. Furthermore, rosemary oil is not suitable for everyone. It tends to be ineffective for people dealing with certain conditions such as alopecia areata, scalp psoriasis, scalp dermatitis, or severe cases of follicle miniaturization. And finally, rosemary is considered natural. It can cause irritation, allergic reactions, especially if used undiluted or in excessive amounts. Concentrations and proper usage really matter when it comes to essential oils like rosemary. Now, my personal experience. I tested rosemary oil and rosemary water daily for a year during periods of androgenic alopecia and telogen effluvium. And the results? Well, not so great. No significant hair growth improvement, increased scalp irritation and itching, large clumps of hair falling out, especially with rosemary water. Noticed a lot of hair shedding, likely due to maybe overuse or sensitivity to rosemary. I'm far from alone. Many people report big clumps of hair falling out, which suggests rosemary works for some, but definitely not a universal solution. Rosemary isn't a blanket cure, but it could still be a valuable piece of your hair growth puzzle. Now, let's get into some practical tips and best practices for using rosemary safely and effectively. First and foremost, dilution is absolutely key. You should never apply undiluted rosemary oil directly to your scalp as it can cause irritation or even damage. The recommended guideline is to mix between 5 to 10 drops of rosemary essential oil per 1 ounce or about 30 milliliters of carrier oil such as olive oil, almond oil, or argan oil. This helps minimize the risk of adverse reactions while still allowing the beneficial properties of rosemary essential oil to take effect. Now, before applying this to your scalp, always do a patch test first. Simply apply a small amount of diluted oil to a small area of your scalp and wait at least 24 hours to check for any redness, itching or irritation. If you don't have any negative reaction, then you can go ahead and proceed and use it more widely. Another important aspect is scalp massage. Many people overlook this, but the act of massaging your scalp can greatly improve the blood circulation to the hair follicles. In fact, some of the benefits people attribute to rosemary oil may actually come from the scalp massage itself rather than the rosemary oil. So make sure to gently massage the oil in circular motions when you apply it. For best results, it's generally recommended to apply rosemary oil 2 to 3 times a week. You can leave it on your scalp for at least 30 minutes, though some people prefer leaving it overnight for deeper treatment, but I don't recommend doing that. Additionally, some online experts suggest that rosemary oil can be blended with minoxidil for possible synergistic effect. For example, adding about 10 drops of rosemary oil per ounce of minoxidil may enhance its impact, though it's important to note that evidence supporting this practice is still limited. However, there are a few things that you should avoid, such as using too much rosemary oil. Even when diluted, can actually backfire and cause irritation or even damage your hair follicles. Also, if you suffer from scalp conditions such as psoriasis, eczema, or dermatitis, rosemary oil might actually worsen your symptoms, and it's not recommended in those cases. Lastly, patience is essential. Many people give up too early, but rosemary oil takes time to work. Studies suggest that consistent use for at least 6 months is necessary before you may see any noticeable result. Now, Where might rosemary actually help? Well, it's potentially effective in early stages of androgenic alopecia, where hair follicles are still alive but just weak, thanks to its circulation boosting and anti inflammatory properties. Rosemary may help strengthen those follicles and slow down the progression of hair loss. It may also assist in mild cases of hair thinning or temporary shedding caused by stress or conditions like telogen effluent. In these situations, rosemary can help create a healthier scalp environment that may speed up health hair recovery. But you need to know that if you suffer from dandruff or mild scalp irritation, then rosemary's anti inflammatory and antimicrobial properties may help calm and reduce the flaking or the itching. However, it's important to set realistic goals. Rosemary oil is unlikely to regrow hair in areas where follicles have already miniaturized and completely gone or died off. It's also not an effective treatment for more serious conditions such as psoriasis, folliculitis, or alopecia. If you're dealing with any of these more complex issues, it's always best to consult a dermatologist for targeted treatments. Or you can go ahead and use the Miracle Locks Hair Duo, which is a combination of hair oil and hair essence. This essence is created with 11 peptides that work together in harmony to not only work on the surface level, but it also works on the bulb of the hair, which helps to strengthen the bulb of the hair, brings more circulation to the bulb of the hair, increases the density of the hair follicle so that instead of having one hair per follicle, you will have 4 to 5 hairs per follicle, creating a more denser head of hair. So, what's the final verdict on rosemary for hair growth? Well, let's with the pros and cons. On the plus side, rosemary oil has been shown in at least one clinical study to be as effective as 2% minoxidil after 6 months of consistent use. It also tends to cause fewer side effects such as itching or dryness compared to the minoxidil 2%. Additionally, it offers extra benefits such as anti inflammatory and antioxidant, which can help improve overall scalp health. Rosemary oil is also relatively inexpensive, widely available, and easy to incorporate in your DIY hair care routines. However, there are some downsides. First, most of the available research comes from a small study, and rosemary has yet to be tested against stronger 5% minoxidil, which is more commonly used. Second, rosemary works slowly and requires a long term commitment, and you won't see results overnight. Third, improper use or excessive amounts can lead to irritation or even worsen scalp problems. And finally, rosemary oil is simply not suitable for treating advanced cases of androgenic alopecia or scalp diseases. Ultimately, rosemary oil may be a helpful tool for some people dealing with mild or moderate hair thinning, but it's not a guaranteed solution for everyone. Consistency, patience, and realistic expectations, even if you decide to try it, are going to be the most important thing in your routine. Now, my recommendation if you're starting your hair loss treatment and want to avoid harsh chemicals, then rosemary oil is worth a try as long as you are consistent, patient, and pair it with a healthy hair care routine. Or I would highly recommend you try the Miracle Locks hair essence and hair oil. I have documented my entire journey from day one up until now, and I will continue to do so until I don't get a full head of hair. And I have specifically shown how the increase in diameter of my hair follicle has given me more than one hair per hair follicle. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and try that. Or, like I said, you can go ahead and try the rosemary oil. Just make sure you dilute it and then use it up to 3 times a week.